I can't wait.
All right, Rocco, your topic.
Oh. Okay, guys. My topic is, let's talk about, is it true or a myth? Atlantis.
You're definitely not improv.
I was trying to find like a cool name for like the tie of the topic or the.
I like it though. I like the idea of this. Okay,
Is
so
it
there's
true
fact or
or is
fiction.
it myth? Like let's just fact or fiction.
No,
right?
No. I'm naming things that have been done already. Fact or fiction.
Okay. Table
real or
talk.
false. That is table talk, but that's not.
Yeah. Same different
myth,
topics.
myth or
Legend.
ooh, I like that. Myth or
Both
legend.
the same though. They're just like.
Well, legend.
but-
No,
Legend can
legend
change-
implies.
legend's like true.
Legend.
True.
Yeah. Myth
Yeah, okay.
implies that it's
Like-
not.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
why I
so
like it. So
legend
myth or
or
legend.
myth.
Yeah.
Okay. Myth. Myth
I
or
made
legend.
something up.
Let Rocco. Let
Legend or
Rocco.
myth or
Okay.
myth or legend?
Go ahead, Rocco. Open up.
This episode. Wait, this is all this.
All right, Rocco. I know what happens when I put you on the spot now. Let's try it one more time.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah. This is the myth or legend.
Okay. You need a tagline, Rocco.
No, come on.
Come on. Come on.
Okay, hold on.
Uh,
This is the topic of myth or legend, Atlantis style.
No. It's like time to play or time
Oh.
to find out.
Time to find out if this is myth or legend.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like
in
this.
now.
There
I'm
we go.
in. Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
There we go. There we
Fucking
go.
Atlantis.
Yeah. Let's talk about Atlantis, myth or
Let's talk
legend.
about Atlantis. Okay, guys.
I've
so-
been there, so it's definitely a legend.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay, what is it like?
There's a lot of gold.
Okay.
It's wet. You
Very-
like every bench you go to sit on, it's just
Like-
puddles of water.
Yeah.
Very
You have
annoying.
kind of like
So-
half mermaid to survive there.
Yeah, wear a swimsuit.
Okay.
Some swimmies if you can't swim.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
so with all that being said, though, Atlantis.
Yeah.
It's been mentioned before about like from Plato telling a story and stuff. It's been talked about in Stargates. You know, we've had this story like perpetuated throughout history, and whether it's got some truth behind it or not, we've heard plenty of different stories. So there's been a lot of different people that try to like explore, try to find Atlantis. They've tried to find them off the find this continent, lost continent off the coast of South Carolina, saying it was a few 100 miles off the coast and it should be there. Then there's been some other studies saying that it was actually off the west coast of like the California area, and
Really?
they between like Hawaii to
I saw it in Atlantic Ocean.
Easter Islands. Okay, and the reason why they say that this is a possibility is because back in the 1900s, the beginning, like I think it was like 1920 or something like that, they were seeing coral reefs at that time down in those areas that were shifting away,
Yeah.
which is the supposed of what happens between continents of like when they're rising and falling, and that this continent essentially, if it had existed, would have been now a coral reef that's moving away lower and lower into the sea, where other parts of land are coming up. So in the 1920s, between these areas, between Hawaii and Easter Island, they had seen these coral reefs, and now they're dramatically deeper. But as well as that, on these islands that are spread out so far apart from one another, there is like the same kind of, they're finding the same kind of species of animals, same kind of species of plants, all these other different things that say essentially that it would seem as if there was some type of land bridge at some point in time, where these species, animals, all these different things were able to go from one another. And that's why you find them scattered throughout hundreds of miles apart from each other, all sharing these same attributes. We're talking about Easter Islands up the left side of South America, and then Hawaii far out Pacific Ocean west side of the United States. You know what I mean? So it's like in that there is say that Atlantis could have been in that area, that could have been where the continent had existed at that time, that there, say 65,000 years ago, if that was the case, because there's all the different kinds of sayings about when Atlantis even existed. For example, like what I'm looking up right now, when did Atlantis exist? I just asked this question.
11,000 years ago.
It said 9,000 is what some said. Okay, so Plato said Atlantis existed 9,000 years before his own time. So yeah, like
11,000.
Yeah, exactly. Every place you can imagine, kind of thing. So like there's sayings of like it existed in 360 BC is when it sank, or that it had been around 11,000 years ago. yada yada. What do you guys take on this? Do you guys think that this is a possibility? Because there's a lot of say about what Atlantis had and the Atlanteans themselves. Some say they were just people. That was it. There was nothing to it. It just existed. But there were people that had existed at an earlier time, and a civilization at an earlier time than what we had thought for human history. There's some that say that they were extremely advanced beings that didn't use technology the way we see it, that they were in tune with, like, they wasn't communication and talk, it was telepathy and all this other different stuff was happening, that they had this more advanced understanding, and then there was
I'm not sure I believe telepathy and, like, advanced technology. I think that's the myth part of it, but I think that there's a possibility that it really existed. They say that it potentially was the island, which was well forested, was located by the Straits of Gibraltar. And that there was a war
off of Europe, right?
Yeah, and that there was a war between the Anthians and Atlanteans, and apparently the Athenians came from Athens.
Yep.
So that would make a lot of sense, and they say that it was an earthquake that caused the island to be destroyed. Which, I could see that. I'm not aware of many islands or bodies of land that have been destroyed by earthquakes, in the sense that, like, it's gone, it's under the sea. Yeah. So
that would make more sense. I get that, if that, but at the same time, that had to happen, like, in this time frame for us to really kind of see that kind of situation occur. Like, that would be saying that happened in human history.
In any written history, that I have not seen that happen.
Right.
So,
because there is that theory too, as well, like you were saying. That's the written history side of the possibility of the Atlanteans, that they were like the sea-bearing people, and that they were mapping out like crazy, and that they were having a rivalry between, I guess, some other sea-bearing. What did you say it was?
Athens. So the Romans, the Greeks, the stuff like, which makes sense because they share the Athens. Pantheons, right? So you have, like, Poseidon was a very, like, prominent person or god, a part of the Atlanteans, right? So they have the Greek gods too, which makes sense to me. But again, okay, if it wasn't an earthquake that caused the destruction, what was it, and why aren't there any remains, right? I also read it interesting that the Egyptian priests referred to the declamation of heavenly bodies, meaning meteorites, which caused devastation on the planet. And the Egyptian priests understood from time to time that there were serious natural catastrophes that involved fire and water, which they had been largely immune. They attributed these to the actions of the gods. So, like, there's
been tons of things that I've even read too as well, like way out there. They're like, are also that say that every 13,000 years polar shifts happen, and then that's what happened to Atlantis, is that a polar shift just occurred and it just sank essentially that piece of land, and that was all it was. And another one that says that this is a far-fetched, wild one that says that the people at that time were this is really far-fetched, and it's a really awesome story. And and for entertainment purposes alone, I suggest everybody out there that's watching to go check out on YouTube. It's called Spirit Science. And it talks about Atlantis and stuff like that, and it's just got a lot of like research he's tied to it, but he's also tied parts of like A to B or A to C without like somehow like, what the fuck are you doing there? You know what I mean? So, like I said, just entertainment purposes, just watch it. It's about an hour long, but it's pretty cool. But what it explains is that, like, these people could have, potentially, he's saying that they did. We're enlightened beings, we're very spiritual, and that they set up these energy vortexes essentially on Atlantis, like, to draw the human society together. Like, these are like the leaders, what you would call the Jesuses and Buddhas and those messiahs, that there was a group of them that were all trying to kind of bring humanity and upgrade, like think of like consciousness as an evolution. They were trying to evolve consciousness, so they put out these energy vortexes and blah blah blah, 12 different ones. 10 of them were all filled by the humans at the time, which they called Lemurians, which were just the human beings. All got to this place. They all filled out those different 10 vortexes, called them cities, erected them up, and they were all based off, the vortexes were drawing people energetically, supposedly, based off of their attributes so that they could work within that society in that little city. So it's like, if you were a certain kind of person, you would go there or there. There was 2 other ones that were left over, and this is pretty awesome right here. This is where it goes, woo! You know? few other vortexes that were being drawn, and anything in life that has a vortex, there has to be something that goes to it, is what this guy says.
Yeah.
Hebrews were drawn into the other one, and the reason why Hebrews were is because I guess supposedly it was like a lesson still needed to be learned that wasn't learned in their evolution, and they had to do that evolution over again. So when they came into Lemuria, the relationships between us were really good because they were teaching us things that we didn't know at the time. They were a little bit more advanced. At the same time, it was like right brain, left brain kind of deal. Like they were opposite side, teaching us things we didn't know. We were more emotional beings and more loving, caring, kind of like right-sided beings, brain beings, and we were kind of sharing each other a good relationship. Then supposedly the other vortex drew in Martians. Now Martians were, I guess, a million years ago.
This is crackpot, man.
And this is what I'm saying. This is how cool this theory is. It's like entertainment purposes alone.
Yeah.
Just like listen how beautiful this story is.
Okay.
A million years ago, Martians, Mars existed as like an Earth-like place, but I guess essentially, like any living being, is this view coming from here? To understand this is God essentially. Able to create anything you want to do and do anything you want to do, whatever it be. And they wanted to cut themselves off from this like wholeness that they were like a part of. When they did that, they essentially they became like super selfish individuals and not about a wholeness concept, that they destroyed their planet and their atmosphere. And while destroying their atmosphere, they had tried to find out how to escape. And the way that they had found out how to escape was through this portal. The portal ended up bringing them to our place. Now, this was Martians that are like...
This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
This is supposedly like what happened. And then a meteor eventually comes down like thousands of years later, right? The relationship between them, it's really bad. It's like he describes it as a 6-year-old man and a 14-year-old girl. And he's got technology, but no emotions or anything like that, no other different sides, and wants to just suppress. Like when they first came here, supposedly wanted to start a war and just take everything all over.
So Donald Trump.
But didn't have the numbers. You know what I mean? Yeah. That would make sense. Donald Trump would just be a Martian.
Well, he looks like one. So.
Or at least genetically down the line of a Martian. Like of some super selfishness. Anyways, it just says like that eventually down the road, they built this like neutral kind of relationship in a sense that they just kind of live not liking each other kind of deal. But then a meteor comes down and the Atlanteans are like, we need to just allow things to happen and let things happen the way they're supposed to. And the Martians are like, no, let's shoot this shit down. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. And eventually they let it happen. And what happens is that from there, like Atlantis goes away and then everybody breaks apart essentially. And that's where you get the different kind of like personalities or human existences that exist. Like I said, though, go to spirit science.
Sounds legit.
Steve.
That's what I'm saying. He'll go from like A to B or C or whatever, and just you're like, whoa, how the hell did you get there? But entertainment purposes, it's really freaking cool. You're just like,
yeah. Supposedly there's supposed to be like a great being that's been alive this entire time since then. Like supposed to be like I wouldn't say in the middle of the earth, but like.
Oh.
Yeah,
well,
you know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Like what the Buddhists called and the Nazis supposedly were looking for was Middle Earth. Like Middle Earth is essentially that Earth is not the way we're told. It's like a mantle and stuff like that inside in the core, but that supposedly it's hollow, and then that's what I guess the Nazis and the Buddhists were trying to go to. That's where the Atlanteans eventually, like these essentially these leaders, not the Lemurians, the other individuals, but those leaders all went to the center of the Earth kind of deal. Yeah. Like, or the people that were the same kind of
like Matrix
evolved consciousness,
like in the Matrix. Are they having rave parties too down there?
Yeah.
Like in the Matrix.
Like the Matrix. No, I like the Matrix though because the idea of what it like expresses as reality. But back onto the topic, Atlanteans though. So I mean, there's been plenty of different topics like or stories told about like what they. I mean, even look at the Stargate universe one. It's like they're tucked away some deep under like ground place, underwater place. It's like some crazy awesome technology there and existent, and they've been around for forever. They're just hiding from society kind of thing. Like there's all different kinds of.
What about Aquaman?
It's like, well, that's a pretty cool.
Like come from Atlantis?
Definitely exists.
Yeah, he's a king of Atlantis, dude.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Jesus, Steve.
He could have been the only one that stayed behind.
Maybe.
Stayed behind.
Jason Momoa, man. He's a real...
I don't know. I've seen some stuff on Atlantis, like some documentaries and stuff like that, like them saying like they supposedly found it, but the thing is, there's so much red tape because it's like supposed to be like under a protective coral reef,
Well, that's
and like
convenient.
they
Found
can't
it,
like
but
test
we're not
it.
allowed to yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like I've
Well, there's
watched
no,
like a lot of those episodes and
Come on.
been disappointed because like they like people came and said you can't go there, you can't test anything,
well,
you can't dig up the coral reef, nothing like. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
because
just a bunch
the
of like
thing is like if they don't find it, they're like, all right, let's go to another protective. It's probably there, and they won't
yeah.
stop until everything is
so check this out though. So like that guy's story that I was talking about that seems all extreme. He does bring up some topics of things that are like legit. Like in the Mayan society and their history, they actually explain the story of the Atlanteans too as well.
Oh,
It
cool.
wasn't just like a Plato thing. And when I go to like recheck, like fact check his shit, some of the stuff was like, whoa, holy shit, okay. As well as like when he talks about like in the stories like Babylon and the other old cities that were written in the Bible that were like believed to be non-existent or myths and stuff,
Yeah.
were later found to be. They found one of these cities, then they found another one of these cities,
Oh,
and in
cool.
those cities too as well was documentation about like humans' history was explaining that same exact story too as well, where they're like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about here? Somebody on a completely different side of the world talking about an existence, and so is these Mayan cultures, and like, what is this exactly that they're trying to tie it, you know? And that history was exactly what I just explained, which is like, wait,
Well, I'm
what?
just like
what? Like,
I'm just throwing this
look
out
it
there.
all
That
up.
entire story that Rocco just told. I mean,
But then it's
how
like, it's like,
how
no, this doesn't make any sense. Let me go see if this is
well,
anything
no, the
here.
thing is I mean, you read the Bible, like it's the same thing. Like it's
No, but
just
they don't say the same thing.
I know
It's
they
not-
don't say the same thing. I'm just saying it's just like it's a story. You can choose to believe it. You know what I mean? I mean, how I can't.
I don't believe that story. If you want my truth, like I just think that it's like, honestly, it sounds. I would like it
Sounds
better
cool.
as
It
a
just
like
sounds
as
cool.
like a start of like kind of like things that were going down and happening than what we have right now.
Who wouldn't want to believe that? I'd like that would be pretty cool.
My wife is using my good rum for the hottie toddies.
the hottie toddies.
Man, she's not feeling the greatest.
Okay.
I drank this entire coffee and I'm like not feeling good.
All right, let's get that was great. I think we need to slap a
That
big
was
old
okay.
myth on this.
I would put a myth on this one.
I don't believe.
I don't
any
believe
of
that Atlantis
majority of
existed.
the things it
I
said.
think if what it was trying to be delivered as, honestly, I think it was just like anything else. Everything was written in a sense of like a story used to depict something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that that's all it really was at the end of the day, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's good entertainment.
And
I
then
like
next week we're gonna do
entertainment-wise.
myth
Fun.
or legend on Batman. Is he a myth or a legend?
He's definitely real.
well, yeah. I mean, I've met him, so and there's movies on
I
him.
am Batman.
Yeah.
That's why he's met him.
He came out pretty quick.
I can't wait.
All right, Rocco, your topic.
Oh. Okay, guys. My topic is, let's talk about, is it true or a myth? Atlantis.
I can. You're definitely not improv.
I was trying to
right
find
now.
like a cool name for like the tie of the topic or the.
I like
the
it
name.
though. I like the idea of this. Okay,
Is
so
it
there's
true
fact or
or is it
fiction.
myth? Like let's
Fact
just
or fiction?
fact or fiction,
No,
right?
no. I'm naming things that have been done already. Fact or fiction.
Okay. Table
Real or
talk.
false. That is table talk, but that's not.
Yeah. Saying different
Myth,
topics.
myth or.
Legend.
Ooh, I like that. Myth or
Both
legend.
the same though. They're just like
What legend?
but-
no,
legend,
legend
can
implies.
legend's like true.
Legend yeah. Myth
Yeah, okay.
implies that it's
Like-
not.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
why I
so
like it. So
legend
myth or
or
legend. Yeah.
Okay, myth. Myth
I
or
made
legend or
something
legend
up?
or myth?
Let Rocco. Let
Legend or
Rocco.
myth or
Okay.
myth or legend?
Go ahead, Rocco. Open up.
This episode. Wait, this is all this episode.
All right, Rocco. I know what happens when I put you on the spot now. Let's try it one more time.
Okay.
Okay,
ready?
again. This is the myth or legend.
Okay. You need a tagline, Rocco.
No, come on.
Come on. Come on.
Okay, hold on.
Uh,
This is the topic of myth or legend, Atlantis style.
No. It's like time to play or time
Oh.
to find out.
Time to find out if this is myth or legend.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like
in
this.
now.
There
I'm
we go.
in. Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
There we go. There we
Fuck
go.
It's talked about in Stargates. You know, we've had this story like perpetuated throughout history, and whether it's got some truth behind it or not, we've heard plenty of different stories. So there's been a lot of different people that try to like explore, try to find Atlantis. They've tried to find them off the find this continent off the coast of South Carolina, saying it was a few 100 miles off the coast and it should be there. Then there's been some other studies saying that it was actually off the west coast of like the California area, and
Really?
they between like Hawaii.
Yeah. Let's talk about Atlantis, myth or
Let's talk
legends.
about Atlantis, okay, guys.
I've
so-
been there, so it's definitely a legend.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome! Okay, what is it like?
It's there's a lot of gold.
Okay.
It's wet. You
very
like
wet.
every bench you go to sit on, it's just
Like-
puddles of water.
Yeah.
Very
You have
annoying.
kind of like
So-
half mermaid to survive there.
Yeah, wear a swimsuit.
Okay.
Some swimmies if you can't swim.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
so with all
uh,
that being said, though, Atlantis.
Yeah.
It's been mentioned before about like from Plato telling a story and stuff. It's been